You passed. But the test can end before your mind stops living inside it. Chosen one, think about what happens when something good enters your life now. A new opportunity appears, and you search for the catch. Someone offers help, and you wonder what they want. An idea arrives with energy behind it, but within minutes your mind gives you 10 reasons it will fail. You finally get a little room to breathe. Yet instead of breathing, you start preparing for the next emergency. You check the account. You replay the conversation. You imagine what could go wrong before anything has actually gone wrong, because that kind of vigilance once helped you survive another season. That does not mean you failed. It does not mean you lack faith. It may mean you became extremely good at surviving a world you are no longer required to live inside. And that is why this message matters. When I say God is funding your life from now on, I am not telling you to stop working and wait for money to fall from the sky. Provision can be money, but provision can also be the idea that creates money. It can be the clarity that protects it. It can be the connection that opens a door, the courage that helps you walk through it, or the discernment that keeps you from wasting years on the wrong direction. Here is the part almost nobody talks about. Provision and the ability to recognize provision are not the same thing. You can have an opportunity in front of you and fail to see it. You can receive an answer and dismiss it. You can ask for direction while feeling too mentally tired to trust the direction when it appears. There is a name I want to give that gap today: the provision receiver gap. Before this message ends, you are going to understand why part of you may still be living as though the old test never ended. You will see how scarcity can shape what your attention notices, even after circumstances begin to change. And you will understand why clarity may become one of the most important forms of preparation for what comes next. Later, we will return to a neurological discovery that adds another layer to this conversation. But do not jump there yet. First, you need to understand what the receiver has been through. If the test is over, why does part of you still feel tested? Begin there. Notice the moment good news arrives and your body tightens. Notice when help appears and your first instinct is suspicion. Notice when an opportunity shows up and fear immediately tells you to stay small. That reaction is not your identity. It is a pattern, and patterns can be observed before they are obeyed. This is your first breakthrough. What once protected you can continue running long after the danger has changed. And if you never notice it, the old season can keep making decisions inside the new one. So, make one declaration before we go deeper. I am ready to receive. Not recklessly, not blindly, but with enough awareness to stop treating every unfamiliar door like a threat. Because the first thing the old survival mind changes is not your bank account. It changes what you notice. There is a reason the old season can keep speaking after it ends. Your mind learned patterns that helped you function under pressure. You became alert. You became careful. You learned to scan people, numbers, conversations, and possibilities for signs of danger before you allowed yourself to relax. That skill may have protected you, but protection can become a prison when it never turns off. Maybe an opportunity appears and your first thought is that it is too good to be true. Money comes in and you immediately imagine losing it. Someone kind enters your life and you begin searching for the hidden red flag. You finally have a peaceful day, but peace itself feels suspicious. Nothing is wrong, yet your body waits for something to happen. You want to begin a project that matters to you, and suddenly you feel unusually tired. You call it weakness, or even a problem with your faith, but those explanations may be too simple. You are not necessarily lazy. You are not automatically ungrateful. You are not spiritually defective, because uncertainty trained you to be cautious. Sometimes a response survives because it was useful for so long that your mind keeps using it even when the environment has changed. I call this survival carryover. It is the moment an old protection strategy continues operating inside a new season. The strategy once made sense. It told you to conserve. It told you to prepare. It told you not to trust too quickly, because comfort had disappeared before. Now imagine what happens when that same strategy meets a genuine opportunity. The opportunity is new, but the response is old. The door is open, but your attention is still trained on what could slam shut. You think you are evaluating the future, while part of you is actually repeating the logic of the past. This changes the meaning of what you have been through. Maybe those difficult years did not prove that you were incapable. Maybe they trained capacities that were necessary then. You learned restraint, endurance, and how to keep moving when certainty was unavailable. That is why your next step is not to trust everything. It is to become conscious of what is making the decision. Before you reject something good, ask one question. Is this discernment speaking, or is this familiarity with danger speaking? Then wait long enough to hear the difference. Discernment can identify a specific concern. Fear often gives you a cloud. Discernment can tolerate investigation, while fear usually wants escape or impossible certainty. This small distinction returns agency to you. You do not have to obey every alarm just because an alarm appears. You can notice it. You can investigate it. You can slow the decision down, because awareness creates a space where an automatic response once controlled everything. And this matters far beyond relationships. It matters when you price your work, consider a new role, meet a useful person, or feel an idea returning while your old identity tells you to stay small. The old season taught you how to protect what little you had. The next season may ask you to build with what is available. Those are different assignments. One rewards caution. The other still needs wisdom, but it also requires enough openness to recognize possibility before fear explains it away. If this pattern feels familiar, say this to yourself: I release survival mode. That does not mean you become careless. It means you stop treating constant tension as proof that you are responsible. You can be wise without expecting disaster, and careful without treating every unfamiliar thing as dangerous. If you are still here, some part of you already recognizes this pattern. You know what it feels like to carry yesterday into today. And now you have a way to interrupt it. Name the alarm. Check the evidence. Ask whether the response belongs to this moment or an older one. That is the first shift, but it creates another question. If survival carryover changes how you respond, what does it change before you even respond? What if it changes what you notice in the first place? Because attention is not neutral. A mind trained by scarcity becomes efficient at finding threats, costs, losses, and reasons to retreat. It can walk into a room full of resources and still report that nothing is there. That is where provision becomes complicated. You may not only be waiting for something to arrive, you may need to see differently when it does. And that brings us to the next breakthrough, the gap between provision and the receiver, who has to recognize it. Now we reach the part that changes the way you understand provision. Many say nothing ever comes to them. They say opportunities never appear. They watch other people move forward and wonder why life seems to open for everyone else. Maybe you have said something similar. Maybe you prayed for direction, but nothing seemed to change. Maybe you asked for a door, yet every path looked ordinary. Maybe you assumed God was silent because the answer did not arrive in the form you expected. But what if some forms of provision are easy to miss? Think about the person who offered to help, but you refused because receiving felt uncomfortable. Think about the idea you dismissed because you did not feel qualified. Think about the invitation you ignored because fear called it bad timing. None of this means every missed opportunity was meant for you. It means something simpler. A resource can be present before you recognize that it is a resource. That is the second breakthrough. I call it the provision-receiver gap. Provision is one thing. The ability to recognize, evaluate, and use provision is another. When those two things are separated, a person can stand near possibility and still experience only lack. Scarcity changes attention. It trains you to notice cost first. It teaches you to scan for rejection. It makes risk louder than potential, and it can make unfamiliar opportunity feel more dangerous than familiar limitation. Two people can enter the same room and notice different things. One notices who might judge them. The other notices who they might learn from. Their attention is asking different questions, and repeated questions shape what information feels important. This does not mean you should become naive. Wisdom and boundaries still matter. But fear should not control your attention, because attention helps reveal what a situation contains. So here is a practical check you can use immediately. When something new appears, ask 3 questions. Is there a resource here? Is there information here? Is there a relationship or next action here? Do not force a positive answer. Train yourself to look. Maybe the resource is money, knowledge, or access. Maybe the information saves you time. Maybe the relationship connects you to someone useful later. This is why provision should not be reduced to cash. Money matters. Bills are real. Financial pressure matters. But money is often downstream from something less obvious, like an idea, a skill, a decision, a relationship, or a problem you finally learn how to solve well. Once you see this, parts of your past look different. Not every closed door was punishment. Sometimes you were looking through a survival lens that was excellent at detecting what could hurt you. But a new season may require a second lens, one that can still identify danger while also recognizing usefulness, possibility, and timing. This is not about pretending everything is a blessing. It is about refusing to let scarcity define the entire field of vision. So say this quietly if it fits you. Show me what I missed. Not with shame, with curiosity. Because curiosity opens questions that fear closes too quickly. Imagine waking tomorrow and looking at the same life differently. The email you avoid may contain useful information. The conversation you delay may reveal a connection. The skill you treat as ordinary may be valuable to someone else. The circumstances may be almost identical, but your relationship with them changes because you are no longer scanning only for evidence that life is against you. And now we need to go one layer deeper, because recognizing opportunity still requires something from the receiver. It requires enough mental space to notice patterns, compare options, remember what matters, and make decisions without drowning in noise. This is where a question begins to emerge. What if some of what you have called a spiritual receiving problem is also connected to the condition of the receiver itself? Later, I will show you a neurological discovery that made me reconsider the sentence, "I am just not as sharp as I used to be." It involves research into how different parts of the brain work together and why integration matters when we think, decide, create, and respond. But I do not want to reveal that yet, because without understanding the problem first, the solution would sound like just another tool. For now, hold on to this. You may not only need more provision, you may need more clarity to recognize what is already within reach. And that is the bridge we cross next, from seeing the opportunity to becoming capable of moving when you see it. Now we reach the question that frustrates people the most. What happens when you already know what to do but still cannot move? You have listened to messages, you have prayed, you have written goals. You have promised yourself that this time will be different, yet the next step still feels heavier than it should. Maybe you know the pattern. You open a book and forget what you just read. You begin an important task and your attention drifts. You walk into a room and lose the thought that brought you there. You have an idea that feels powerful at night, but by morning the energy around it is gone. Then you judge yourself. You think you need more discipline. You assume your faith is weak. You tell yourself that if you really wanted the change, you would already have made it. But knowing and moving are not the same process. Information can tell you where the door is. it cannot always give you the clarity to walk through it. That is the third breakthrough. I call it the clarity capacity gap. You can understand the lesson and still lack the mental space required to organize, compare, decide, and act without drowning in noise. This is why another message is not always the answer. Another affirmation may inspire you for an hour. Another prophecy may make you emotional. Another video may give you language for the problem, but language alone does not automatically restore the capacity needed to execute. Think about what action actually requires. You need attention long enough to stay with the task. You need enough integration to connect what you know with what you see. You need discernment to compare options. You need enough internal quiet to hear one signal without 20 fears talking over it. A sincere person can still be mentally exhausted. A faithful person can still feel foggy. Those realities do not cancel each other. You are not necessarily refusing the next step. You may have been trying to take it through a system already, carrying too much noise. That changes the way you speak to yourself. Instead of asking why you are so weak, you ask what is draining clarity. Instead of demanding 10 more goals, you reduce the field. Instead of treating every unfinished task as an emergency, you decide what actually deserves your attention today. Here are 3 simple ways to begin without buying anything. First, reduce decision clutter. Stop making yourself choose between 20 priorities every morning. Pick the one decision that matters most. Second, create a short period each day with no new input, no scrolling, no voices, no extra information. Third, write down one next action. Not your whole future, not the perfect plan. One action you can complete. Clarity often becomes more available when the mind is no longer being forced to hold everything at once. This matters because your next season may not require more effort. It may require better access to the effort you already have. You may not need to become a different person. You may need a clearer channel between what you know and what you can actually do with it. Most people want another promise. You stayed long enough to understand the mechanism. That matters, because now we can return to the question I asked earlier about the receiver. If provision can arrive as an idea, a relationship, a decision, or an opportunity, then clarity is not a luxury. It affects whether you notice the signal, whether you trust it long enough to investigate, and whether you can act before fear buries it under another 100 possibilities. But one question remains. If you can recognize the pattern, and you know what needs to change, why can clarity still feel so difficult to access on command? The answer takes us somewhere we have not gone yet. Not deeper into motivation, not deeper into another promise, deeper into the receiver itself. Earlier, I mentioned a neurological discovery that changed the way I think about the sentence, "I am not as sharp as I used to be." We are ready for that now. And this is where the missing piece becomes practical, because a clearer receiver can change what you notice before it changes what you achieve. Because once you understand why integration matters inside the brain, you will see why some people keep collecting insight while still feeling unable to turn insight into movement. Now we can close the loop. You know the why. A long survival season can train attention toward threat. You know the what. You can reduce decision clutter, examine opportunities more carefully, and stop confusing every alarm with discernment. And you know the who. You are not only a survivor anymore, you are becoming a steward. The last season taught you how to survive with less. The next season asks whether you can think clearly enough to steward more. That is why I want to return to the question about the receiver. Years ago, research into the brain helped scientists understand more about how the two hemispheres can perform different functions while still contributing to an integrated human experience. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize in 1981 for discoveries related to functional specialization of the cerebral hemispheres. That research does not prove that any commercial audio program will transform your brain. It is important to be clear about that. but it opened a larger conversation about integration, specialization, and what happens when different systems contribute to one coordinated experience. And that brings us to the tool I mentioned earlier. Before I name it, consider two experiences described in the product material. One woman from California reported that she had tried multiple spiritual practices but still felt mentally foggy and disconnected. After using the audio, she described feeling clearer and more connected. A man from Texas described a different problem. His issue was cognitive overload and difficulty making decisions around his work. According to his testimonial, he experienced greater subjective clarity after using the program. These are personal reports, not guarantees, and your experience may be different. The product is called the Genius Switch. It is a digital audio sequence designed to be used for about 8 minutes, with headphones and closed eyes, according to the instructions provided by its creators. The creators describe the method as neural sync technology, designed around neural synchronization and whole brain activation. That is the product explanation, not a medical treatment or guaranteed result. The product materials position it differently from generic brainwave tracks, breathing methods, or expensive neurofeedback sessions. The appeal is simplicity. 8 minutes, headphones, one focused daily session. And notice how this connects to everything we have discussed. The tool is not the provision. It is designed to support the receiver. That distinction matters. This is not for everyone. If you expect an audio file to replace prayer, wisdom, sleep, responsible decisions, or professional care, that is not the role it should play. But if you have already done a great deal of inner work, and you recognize that your next season requires clearer thinking and better stewardship, then you may want to examine it for yourself. According to the current product material provided for this offer, the referenced value is up to $500. The listed price is $49, with a current offer of $39. The package also includes several digital bonuses and lifetime access. The bonuses include a guided visualization, a grocery shopping guide, a manifestation book, and a 5 habits infographic. A money-back guarantee is also listed under the terms on the product page. I do not want to create fake urgency here. No invented countdown, no claim that God told you to buy something. The real urgency is simpler. If clarity is a problem you have been postponing, it can carry an opportunity cost. A delayed decision can cost time. A missed pattern can cost energy. A good idea ignored can remain only an idea. This product is not the only answer. The receiver still deserves serious attention. If this fits what you need, use the official link in the description or pinned comment, read the details, review the claims and guarantee, and decide for yourself. Do not buy because of pressure. Do not buy because you think a purchase proves your faith. Buy only if the tool makes sense for your situation and your budget. Then use it as a support, not as a substitute for responsibility. Because the purpose of this entire message is not to make you dependent on another object. It is to help you become more available to what your life is asking you to notice, choose, and steward. And now that the product question is clear, we can return to the promise that brought you here in the first place. What does God funding your life really mean? Now, we return to the promise. God funding your life does not have to mean every bill disappears, every risk vanishes, or money arrives without effort. That would be easy to sell, but it would not prepare you for stewardship. Provision can be larger than cash. Money is one form. It pays rent, buys food, creates options, and gives breathing room. But money is not the only thing that can fund a life. Sometimes, the first provision you receive is the mind that helps you use money wisely when it finally arrives. Sometimes provision is an idea. One clear idea can change the direction of a business or career. Sometimes it is a skill you treat as ordinary because it comes naturally, while someone else would gladly pay for the result that skill creates. Sometimes provision is a person. A mentor can save you years. A friend can introduce you to the right room. A customer can reveal a problem worth solving. One conversation can place a sentence in your mind that changes what you do next. Sometimes provision is a position. You receive access, responsibility, or a chance to serve at a larger level. It may look like more work, but it can expose you to people and information you could not reach before. And sometimes provision is permission. The courage to finally move, the willingness to stop asking everyone else to approve what already deserves your attention. The moment you stop waiting to feel completely safe before taking a responsible next step. This is why the phrase "God is funding your life" has to become bigger in your mind. Sometimes, funding is not more being placed into your hand first. Sometimes it is your ability to recognize what is already within reach. So do a provision inventory. Make it specific. Ask what you already know that could be useful. Ask who is already in your life. Ask what opportunity keeps returning even after you ignore it. Ask what skill you have underestimated. Ask what decision you keep delaying. Ask what resource you already possess but manage poorly. Ask what idea keeps returning when the noise gets quiet. You do not need to force an answer. You need to become available enough to notice one. This is where stewardship becomes practical. A steward does not only ask for more. A steward studies what is present, protects what matters, and develops what is useful. You can pray for provision and still review your spending. You can trust God and still learn a new skill. You can ask for direction and still gather the information needed for a wise decision. That is the trust. I want this message to leave inside you. A tool cannot replace God. An audio cannot replace wisdom. A spiritual message cannot replace action. And no product can guarantee a financial outcome for your life. The genius switch, if you choose to explore it, is one optional tool presented as support for clarity. It is not the source of provision, and it does not make decisions for you. Your future should not be built around dependency on a product. It should be built around increasing your capacity to recognize, evaluate, and steward what comes into your hands. If you stayed with me this far, you are no longer listening like someone waiting to be rescued. You are beginning to listen like a steward. That identity changes the questions you ask. Instead of asking only, "Where is my breakthrough?" ask, "What is already here that deserves better stewardship?" Instead of asking why nothing is happening, ask what information, relationship, skill, or action have I failed to examine closely enough. That does not make every answer easy. It does not make every opportunity right. But it returns you to participation instead of helplessness. And that is a powerful shift. The funded life is not a life where nothing difficult happens. It is a life where lack no longer defines everything you see. You can face a real problem without letting it become the only thing your attention recognizes. And once that changes, the same life can reveal different possibilities. The same room can contain a connection. The same problem can contain an idea. The same season can contain a next step that fear once made invisible. That is where we go next. Not toward fantasy, toward a different way of living inside the life you already have, where survival is no longer your only identity and stewardship begins to shape what comes after it. Now imagine what this shift looks like in an ordinary day. You wake up and nothing magical has happened overnight. The bills still exist, the work still matters, but something inside you is quieter, and that changes how you meet the same life. You do not open your eyes already searching for danger. You do not reach for your phone and let fear choose the first thought of the morning. You breathe. You notice what is actually true. Then you decide what deserves your attention before the noise of the world decides for you. A financial issue appears. You still take it seriously, but you do not turn one problem into a prophecy about your entire future. You look at the numbers, consider the options, and take the next responsible step. That is not denial. That is stewardship. An opportunity arrives. The old version of you might have dismissed it too quickly. Now, you pause. You ask what resource is here, what information is here, and what next action is available. You do not say yes blindly, but you no longer let fear say no automatically. A conversation begins with someone unexpected. Instead of wondering only what could go wrong, you listen for what you can learn. The difference is that your attention is wide enough to receive information before your history filters it out. Then an idea comes. It is small at first. You could ignore it again. But this time, you write it down. You give it honest attention. You test it against reality instead of killing it with anxiety before it has a chance to breathe. By evening, every problem has not disappeared. You are not living without uncertainty, but you feel something you may not have felt in a long time. You feel like you are participating in your own life instead of only reacting to it. That is the future I want you to picture. Not fantasy, not a perfect life, a clearer relationship with the life you already have, where fear can speak without becoming the final authority and possibility is allowed to exist beside caution. If the part about supporting the receiver stayed with you, the resource I mentioned is still in the description and pinned comment. Read the details and decide for yourself. Then return to the larger work, because no tool can live your next season for you. And there is one final thing I need to say to the person who has spent years asking to be trusted with more. More opportunity requires more stewardship. More resources require more responsibility. You are not being invited to become careless with blessing. You are being invited to become capable of carrying it without letting the fear of losing it control every decision. The survivor inside you deserves gratitude. That version of you carried weight. That version endured. But survival was never meant to become your permanent identity. The next chapter asks for someone who can build, choose, receive, and steward with clearer eyes. You passed. Let those words land differently now. Passing does not mean nothing difficult will happen again. It means the season behind you does not deserve unlimited authority over the season in front of you. You learned how to survive. You learned how to hold yourself together when certainty disappeared. Honor that version of you. But do not confuse survival with destiny. The old pattern said, expect loss before you receive. The new pattern says, examine what is here before fear names it for you. You have seen the provision-receiver gap. You have seen the clarity-capacity gap. You have seen how survival carryover can keep yesterday active inside today. Those ideas do not require shame. They require awareness. So carry this identity forward. You are not only the one who survived, you are becoming the steward. A steward notices. A steward evaluates. Say this within yourself. I do not need to live as though every season is an emergency. I can receive without immediately expecting loss. I can examine opportunity without letting fear make the decision for me. I can steward what is already in my hands. I can ask for clarity and still take responsibility for action. I do not confuse survival with destiny. I am allowed to build after surviving. Now return to the sentence that brought you here. God is funding your life from now on. Hear it without fantasy. It does not mean you will never face another bill. It does not mean money appears without work or responsibility. It means provision can become larger than the definition fear gave it. You begin looking for the resource, the relationship, the idea, the opportunity, the skill, and the clarity that can help you take the next faithful step. Sometimes, the first sign of a funded life is not more in your hand. Sometimes, it is a different way of seeing what is already within reach. The deepest evidence of a funded life is not that you never face lack again. It is that lack no longer owns the way you see. Ask what deserves stewardship today. Ask what opportunity deserves a closer look. Ask what fear has been naming too quickly. Then move with wisdom. Move without demanding perfect certainty before every step. You do not need to become reckless to become available to possibility. If the test is over, what changes now? You stop building your future with the mindset that was only meant to carry you through your past. You passed. Receive the wisdom without carrying the fear. Receive the strength without carrying the expectation of constant struggle. And if these words describe the season you are ready to enter, make one final declaration: I choose stewardship now. Not because every answer is visible, not because every problem is solved, but because yesterday no longer gets to decide what you can notice today. The survivor got you here. The steward decides what you build from here.